Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Cooking at Home. In today's episode, we're going to be showing you how to impress family members, special someone, or that next date, or just yourself with your cooking abilities. So today, guys, we're going to be making some potato gnocchi from scratch. Now, it may sound complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Now, one of the beauties of this recipe is you can kind of prep this in advance, freeze it, or keep it chilled, and it actually cooks up quite nice. So with that being said, guys, let's walk through the ingredients. So unsurprisingly, for our potato gnocchi, you're going to need some potatoes. About 4 large potatoes should do. In this case, guys, we're making a few extras just so I can freeze them, but you can see these are pretty big. So this is about 2.5 to 3 pounds of potatoes. Next, you want to grab yourself some flour. In this case, guys, I am using 00 flour. It goes really well with pasta, but any flour will do other than whole wheat flour. Now, guys, you'll use about a cup per pound of potatoes, but you'll see the texture. It's going to be kind of a feel thing, but generally about 1 cup per pound of potatoes. To add a hint of sophistication and some greenery, we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves some sage. Now, this is going to go directly into our butter sauce, and it'll just kind of add a nice subtle flavor that goes really well. Now, you could also replace this with basil or something else of your choosing, but we're staying with the classics here. Get some sage. Less traditionally, you're going to want to go ahead and grab yourself a large handful of pecans or pecans or however you say them, but go ahead and grab yourself a handful. Like I said, we're going to be canning these guys, and these are amazing. It's a very interesting twist on a classic, but I think they add a nice little flavor. To that, you'll be adding a very bright stick of butter like so. Now, you don't necessarily have to use all of this. It just depends how many people you're serving, but this will be the foundation for your sauce and also to give your gnocchi a nice crispy exterior. Now, it wouldn't really be homemade pasta without eggs, so go ahead and grab yourself 2 large eggs. Now, as I mentioned, we want to candy those pecans, so you're going to want to grab yourself a large tablespoon of brown sugar. So to take those pecans to the next level, we're going to go ahead and add ourselves some cayenne. Now, guys, you can use as little or as much as you like. I like it a bit subtle, so here we're just going to add a little bit, about a 1/4 tablespoon should do. And finally, guys, for garnish, you're going to want to grab yourself some parm, or in this case, some ground panano, whatever you have, a nice hard, sharp cheese, just to top your pasta. So there you go, guys. Those are all the ingredients you're going to need to impress your date or your family members or yourself in the kitchen. This recipe comes together quick, guys, and as you can see, it does not use a lot of ingredients. Anyways, now that we've listed those ingredients, let's get to the prep. So go ahead and grab your spectacular spuds and grab a fork, because we're going to be forking this thing. Yes, you heard me. Grab your fork, and we're going to be poking some holes. Now, all this really does is help boil the potatoes a bit faster. So go ahead and repeat this process for all of your potatoes. If you are feeding a lot of people, you will have more potatoes, but this step is pretty easy and quick. So with our potatoes properly forked, we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a pot. Now, grab a bigger pot if you need one, but this will do for 4 or 5 potatoes. So go ahead and drop those in gently before filling it with water and boiling it on high heat. And before you forget, don't forget to go ahead and grab some salt and take it over there as well. With our potatoes on the boil, it is time to prep our candied pecans. So don't be afraid to drop your pecans dramatically from a height like so before you actually top them with a tablespoon of our brown sugar. Some of you might be asking, why do we use brown sugar here? It's got a bit more complexity of flavor than white sugar, and it just generally has a better color as well. With our sugar in the pan, it's time to grab a knob of butter like so, and just drop this in the pan. Finally, we're going to add a good helping of our cayenne pepper. Again, I like it subtle, but you can add more if you like more spice. And then we're going to take this to the stove and put it on a low to medium heat to let this begin to caramelize. So with our mixture bubbling away, just make sure you're tossing this every now and again to incorporate everything, but also to make sure nothing burns. And with that, guys, you should have a nice sticky and sweet topping that you're going to put on your pasta. Our next topping is going to be sage, which we're going to go ahead and prep right here, guys. So lay that down gently, roll it up, and give it a quick slice. Now, some people do like the sage leaves to be whole. I do not, so I do recommend slicing them. So go ahead and move that off to the side and grab yourself a nice fresh bowl, because it's time to transfer our now cooked potatoes. So go ahead and transfer your potatoes into your bowl before covering with a dish towel to allow for some steaming. Now, we do this because this helps separate the skins from the potato and makes cleanup a bit easier. So while that's done, we're going to go ahead and move that to the side and check on our pecans, which look amazing, because these are so beautiful. They're candied, they're glossy, they're very tasty. But we don't have time to taste. We got to chop these up and get them ready. So go ahead and lay a few out and begin your chopping process. Now, I like a bit of a thicker cut on these, but you can do whatever you like. Now, with that done, let's go back and check on our potatoes. Now, I do recommend that you actually wait for these potatoes to cool down, unlike what I did. As you can see, they're still quite hot, but I decided to go ahead and attack these anyways. In any case, just go ahead and try to get those skins off with a knife or with your hands, or in my case, your burning hands, but Get those skins off, and once you've finalized cleaning up your potato, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. And don't worry if you beat a few up, because we're going to be smashing these anyways. But before we mash, we're going to go ahead and season with some sea salt. Here I'm using about 2 or 3 healthy pinches, and then you're going to grab your masher and begin to mash. Now, we aren't making mashed potatoes here, guys, so you do not add any additional liquid. In any case, when you're done, you should have no chunks, and you should have something that looks a little bit like this. So move that to the side and let it cool, because we're going to move to our pasta. So get a large pot, fill it with water, and make sure you season that with some salt. Forgetting this step will anger the pasta gods and possibly ruin your date, so don't forget this step. Very crucial. And while it's boiling, go ahead and grab yourself a small bowl, crack an egg in it, and begin that whisking process. Once beaten, go ahead and move that off to the side, because it is time to start our dough. So go ahead and slam about a pound of potatoes onto your work surface, spread it out, and then go ahead and season once again before adding your egg mixture. Now in my case, I did not add enough potato originally, but just go ahead and begin to fold this over and let the egg and the potato combine until you have a texture that's a little bit wet, but looks a little bit like this. Now, once loosely incorporated, go ahead and add yourself about a half a cup of flour or a little bit more as needed, and just begin the folding process again. Now, we're not looking to knead here, guys. We're just simply folding everything over. So you want to make sure that you're mixing in the potato, the egg, the salt, and the flour into a nice cohesive dough. Once the dough is no longer sticking to your fingers, you can go ahead and begin to really start rolling this over. I'm not pushing too hard, guys, but you can kind of see a little bit of kneading action, and this is kind of what we want. But we want to make sure we keep it nice and light. Here you can see I'm adding the remainder of my flour. This is to make sure that it has the right texture. And we're going to continue with this kind of folding and kneading over process. When you're done, just go ahead and roll this into any shape you like, in this case a dough ball, and do the finger test, where you'd actually see if this finger remains there. It shouldn't bounce back, guys. You want it nice and soft. And then you're just going to let this rest for 20 minutes. This is important. This keeps the dough soft and supple. So after waiting 20 minutes, go ahead and reflour your work surface. Gently plop down your dough, and then go ahead and portion this out into sections. It doesn't really matter how you section this, guys, because what you really want to do is have a workable piece of dough that you can roll out into a log shape. Now, this is my first time making this, and I don't know if there's a proper technique that I should be following, but basically you want to keep reshaping this until you have a nice long log shape like so. Then you just got to cut it into bite-sized gnocchi shapes like so, before deciding if you want to give it a particular kind of shape. Now, there's 2 kinds here. One is the kind of fork rolled shape, which I try here and absolutely butcher it, but don't worry about that. We're going to try that again. So we're going to go ahead and try that again by pushing our dough into the fork a little bit harder this time and rolling it over, and it looks pretty terrible. So we're going to do it a 3rd time, and it actually looks really good, but that's way too much extra work and I'm hungry, so let's keep this simple. A much easier technique is to simply press down into the gnocchi with your finger, and you should have this kind of pillow shape. Now, I do recommend you use your pinky instead. It's a bit faster, but you'll have to repeat this a few times until you have some gnocchi that look a little bit like this. All that's left now, guys, is to take our gnocchi and move it to our pot of boiling water. So go ahead and take your gnocchi and dump it into your salted boiling water. These will only take about a minute, and you'll know they're done when they float. Now, we could stop here, but we're going to take this to the next level, so go ahead and grab yourself a pan and throw your gnocchi in. Alright, so that was some pretty good ASMR cooking sounds, but guys, seriously, all you gotta do is keep tossing in your gnocchi. What you should end up with is beautifully crisp on the outside, but still very fluffy and light on the inside gnocchi. Now, this step takes a little bit of patience, but guys, if you keep it on a medium heat, you will find that these crisp up fairly quickly, and you should have something that looks beautiful just like this. And this is a good step, but we still got 1 or 2 more things to do. So to finish off our beautiful plate of homemade potato gnocchi, we're gonna go ahead and grab those candied pecans. Now, these pecans add a lot of depth to our dish. They're sweet, they got some heat, and they add a lot of texture. So go ahead and grab yourself a pinch before you grab yourself some parm. Now, you can be fairly generous here with your parm or your Grand Padano or whatever you're using, but just make sure you cover everything with a thin coat of the cheese. Optionally, and for a beautiful hit of color, grab some microgreens or some fresh basil and just go ahead and put that on top. And there you go, guys. There is our homemade potato gnocchi perfect for your next date night or if you're looking to impress family or friends. And just to do it a little bit more justice, let's get a nice close-up. As you can see, guys, beautiful color. You can see the texture. It looks really delicious. And I know it's delicious because I ate a lot of it, so go ahead and grab yourself a fork. But before you actually dig in, one thing I forgot to mention, guys, grab yourself a little bit of lemon. This lemon, this bright hit of acid goes a long way, and I definitely recommend you add this to your gnocchi. So it's time to pick up your fork yet again. Go ahead, dig in, you've earned it. This stuff, guys, is mind-blowing. Look at the texture. It's just beautiful, it's bright, it's lighter than you expect, and it has a beautiful richness that comes out from our butter mixture with the sage. This is your kind of classic gnocchi dish, but with all these textures and colors and flavors, guys, and that little hit of acid at the end, I promise you this will be an absolute hit. You know what else promises to be sweet and spicy? B-roll. Alright guys, so there you go. There is our potato gnocchi recipe done, like literally done. There was nothing left. It was so delicious. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.